you see his trucks, they're usually headed to thoroughbred farms. But he's not going to talk about horse feed, probably. He's going to talk about how he makes grazing work on his farm. So, Bobby, it's all yours.
Okay. If I push the wrong button on this thing, we will put somebody in orbit.
Yeah.
Thank you all. I'm glad to be able to share a little bit of what we do, or what I do. 90% of it by myself, a little about 10% I call for some help. But what I want to show is this is the diagram of the farm. It's 120 acres, about 110 acres of pasture, 17 fields. We got 3 ponds, 2 ponds with water tanks, gravity out of them, and city water in every field, spring water in every field but one. The springs are hooked into the same line as the city water. That's the original part. That's the original farm.
So did you say you had your springs and your city water hooked together?
Yes.
Are you allowed to do that?
Got double things on the end on the.
Oh, to keep it from back.
Yeah. So far, everything is good. This is a tract, 35 acres. It's across the road from the home place that I looked at. My wife and I got that about 9-10 years ago. It was had been abandoned for probably 20 years. Blackberry briars, Johnson grass, you name it, it was there. It was about halfway turned back to wild. We did some bulldozer work, put soybeans on it for 3 years with Roundup ready to get rid of the Johnson grass. We divided the 35 up into 6 fields. We got 1 water pen with 4 fields and 1 water tank, split the fence down in 2 fields. These water tanks are all rubber tires. I wouldn't have anything else. Most of them are 8-foot tires, or maybe 9-foot. This tract of land right here is a tract of land that my son and daughter bought that was joined us. The last thing that could ever be added to the farm. That's 50 acres. We divided it up into 4 fields. If I had to do over, I might try to work it to 6 to make smaller fields. We got 1 water pen there with a tire water tank in it. All woven wire fences on that track. The other track is all woven wire fences. This is partly the kind of steers we try to raise or graze. Right now, I'm grazing cattle for another person. After one of those years that these calf prices got high and everything, I figured a piece of pie is better than no pie. It's been pretty good. It's been a lot better than owning them for part of the time. This is a pasture with alfalfa in it. I graze alfalfa. I graze red clover. There's in this field there's alfalfa and fescue. We use red clover and fescue. We use novel fescue and red clover. There's the kind of mineral feeder I use. I got a eye bolt in the tire tread somewhere that I can hook to it with a little chain and drag it wherever I need to use. I don't have to worry about turning it over, and I don't have to worry about getting wet. This is probably red clover and fescue. I never have any bloat problems with it. I got 2 things I swear by with the red clover and alfalfa. I will not move them till after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, regardless. And I will not feed anything but Bammer mice and mineral. I've never had a bloat problem with it. Sure, they're going to be full, but they won't be bloating. Here's a line a picture I put in just showing the right-hand side of the picture is chaparral, which I used to retard the seed head production. And you've noticed along the fence where they didn't get to spray, you got seed head coming up. There was not a seed head where they sprayed. We did that about the first week of May. We grazed it, chain haired it, and sprayed it. I'm going to do more this year. This is about 3 years ago. I didn't do any this year, but I'll do some next year. I like what happens. We don't have to worry about the seed heads coming up. The grass keeps growing. I haven't lost any grazing days. I keep a record in a little book in the truck at how many days I get in each field and how many cattle's on that field. So I can go back and look and see what I did last year or what's this year compared to 2 or 3 years ago. And I've lost no grazing days with chaparral. I would do this if I were going to do it, or do it. Sometimes I'll add 120 pounds of nitrogen, urea to it after I spray it. But other than that, well, that's the only thing. It gets treated different. On our electric fences, I'll spray with chaparral so I don't have to weed eat them. There's an electric fence showing, it's in that same field where I didn't spray, but shows the seed heads forming. Alfalfa again. I don't care. I don't have too much choice. I don't care too much about what different kinds of cattle we get. As long as I won't take anything in much less than 650 pounds. No balling calves. Like I say, 90% of what goes on, I do it myself. If I feed them, I do feed these steers for probably the first week, maybe 10 days I get them. In order to have them gentle, I want them to follow my truck whenever I want to move them. It's a whole lot easier to get them to the scales if they're following you or if you're trying to run them in. Everything comes in the farm, gets weighed. Everything goes out, gets weighed over the same scales. Everything that's there is going to have a brand on it, either my brand or the other man's brand. It doesn't make any difference, but they're going to be branded. We try to run anywhere from a minimum of 65 head to a field, with the exception of across the road where those 6 fields are. I put 40 over there because I'm still trying to build that land up to what it should be. We've already put, give or take 7 tons of lime on it, about 1,300 pounds of potash. Phosphorus we don't need. It's over about a 5-year period. That's what we've done. And it's made a difference. But I'll just pile it on the ground or walk and drop it on the ground. That way I don't have any mud holes to fill up. If you put a trough down there, you got a mud or place for pigweed to start coming. Another clover field. That's the way I like to have it like that. I've got some right now. It's just in that shape that I'll probably turn into tomorrow night. There's what it looks like after I finish grazing the field. I'll leave that much. I try to leave at least a half. I've just figured that the more I leave, the more I've got when I come back, the quicker I can get back to it. I don't want, if whenever you got, takes longer than a week to graze a field, as far as I'm concerned, the field's either too big or you don't have enough cattle in it. And if I got a day's, whenever I've got a day's grazing left, I'll open the gate and let them out. I want to be sure to leave enough to have come back. My rotation is about anywhere from 30 to 35 days rest. There's a field I mowed. That's the only time I'll mow one is when I've got some left over, because if I don't mow it after they come out, what they don't eat this time, they're not going to eat the next time, and we'll try to keep it low and vegetative. I'll keep my mower set two heights, 7 inches and 5 inches. And that's where it's been for the past 4 years, 5 years. There's some novel fescue with some red clover, grazing some Holsteins. They gained 2 pounds a day. I had some black heifers in there that gained 3 pounds a day. Same field, same, those Angus heifers just gain a pound more than the Holsteins do. Those Holsteins came in at about 650. They went out at 8.5. The black heifers came in at 6 and went down at 9 in 100 days. And that's what we're all in business for. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you said you set your mower at 2 heights, 7 and 5 inches.
Yes, ma'am.
When do you use the 7 and when do you use the 5?
I use the 5. Well, if I got it grazed down close, I'll probably use the 5. But if it's like those fields where we saw, I don't mow them. It just depends on what's left as to how I graze it, mow it. And I don't mow them till after they're grazed. Yes, sir.
How are you getting those red clover stands to look so good?
How am I doing?
Yeah, how do you seed those?
Seed it?
Yeah, how are you planting them?
I got a little about 150-pound herd seeder on the back of it's on the back of the tractor now. Pull a chain hair behind it, and that's it.
February or?
I'll try to do it the last week of February, the first week of March. My tractor don't have a cab on it. I didn't have $6,000 for an extra tractor to get that cab. So I got one without a cab, and I'm the one doing it, so I'm going to try to pick a good day or two to do it in. I try not to do it when the ground is completely frozen. I don't mind doing it, which is a little bit damp, but I don't want it just hard. I know it probably should be, but I haven't done it. That's a little cold to fight.
It looks like you're doing a good job.
Well, it's worked so far. The alfalfa, when we do that, I'll do that usually around the first weekend of April, or give or take in that neighborhood. I'll spray with paraquat and then drill the alfalfa in, and I'll use 20 pounds of seed on that. Dr. Henning started me off with ABT 205, and I've gone to 405 because of maturity level. I'm about halfway game enough to try maybe some of the new rhizomial type alfalfas that'll see what they'll do on a field. The novel endophyte fescue we've converted over. I'll spray with chaparral in early May, whenever it's got. Chaparral, you only got about a week, 10-day window there, you can do a good job. That's the work. I mean, that's part of it. And getting a spraying done, I do the co-op there does some spraying for me. And I had to get their attention one year to let them know that grass was my crop. It wasn't soybeans and corn. And that's the only crop I've got, and the only way I harvest it is with cattle. I don't bale anything. I don't, I might waste a field, but I won't bale anything. But I'll spray that fescue. We've got a lot of 31. I'll spray that fescue with chaparral and keep it grazed. Come back in 1st of August, spray it again with Roundup. Come back in 1st September, spray it with Roundup again. Go to plating after I do the second spraying. And I've had good luck doing that. I've let the fescue be my smother crop, nurse crop, or whatever you want to call it. And I've got enough cover on the ground to control erosion if I need to. The farm is a rolling farm. It's not a flat farm. But it's has worked that way, and I've had good luck with that system from that end of it. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain, you mentioned alfalfa, seeding alfalfa. Are you seeding it in pasture?
Do what now?
Your alfalfa?
Yes, ma'am.
Or you're seeding it in already established pasture?
I've seeded into pasture, yes, ma'am. I sprayed the pasture with paraquat
Okay, so you're killing your pasture.
just to kill back. It's already been grazed down. We graze it down close because I don't start taking any cattle in until about the middle of March. Middle of and 1st December, everything's gone. It just I don't want anything there after 1st December. I've been there and done that.
Paraquat or Vermoxone is the safer version. Just burns back the top growth. So he's not actually killing all existing material, he's just setting it back for a month.
Just a burn back.
So your established pasture is still there, root bound.
Oh yeah.
But you're able to seed in alfalfa. That's pretty.
So if it was clover, you can go into an existing pasture like Bob talked about for cross seeding. But alfalfa doesn't do that well. You really need to drill it in, and you really need some way to set the existing stand back. So it takes a bit more effort with alfalfa, but as you saw, you get great results that way.
When my son was in school, Dr. Dougherty talked him into doing that one year. That was before we was getting coated seed. And the fields we did with the, we sprayed, and he said, be sure and put some extra lime with it. And we put in, I got some pre-owned lime, feed grade limestone, and used it in a cedar at 200 pounds to the acre per row. These fields are already checking 6.9 to 7. When we run out of the lime late in the day, we probably had all less than a quarter acre left to do. Before we ran out, we probably had a 90% stand of alfalfa. Where we run out, we had about a 15-20% stand. The coated seed now, I think will answer that problem. When I seed red clover now, I seed 10 pounds to the acre, try to. And that's giving me about 6 pounds of live active seed.
So the coated seed, obviously it has to
Because
be in the coating.
your coated seed's the third coating. You're going to have 10% loss in your germination, so it's going to end up with 6 pounds of good seed. And it has worked so far. I mean, those fields, I got all the red clover I need.
Bill's got a question back here, but before that, let me just follow up with something Bob mentioned. So Chris is going to talk about overseeding. Chris, will you talk about rejuvenating the stand with novel fescue, or will you get into that very much?
Oh, I can't remember whether that's in there or not.
But let me just make a quick point, because what Bob's doing when he says he plays chaparral, we haven't talked about that, but that's an effective broadleaf herbicide. But it has a side benefit. If it's sprayed on fescue there in April, it will keep it from producing seed heads. So you kill your weeds, you get that side benefit. And in his system where he's wanting to go in and plant a new fescue, you definitely don't want the Kentucky 31 producing seed falling on the ground, because then it's going to contaminate your new stand. You could do that through hay cutting, through mowing, through grazing. The chaparral just kind of gives a double benefit, killing weeds plus setting back the seed heads, or in essence inhibiting the seed heads from coming up. But then the 2 sprays in the summer is killing out the existing stand completely. But you're not going to the effort to have to plow it up. You still got your sod there.
You go back.
It's a dead sod after Roundup. And then you seed in your new fescue. Now, there was a horse farm we worked with recently that didn't want to use Roundup, so they used tillage, and that worked fine. But it took a fair bit of passes to really get a good sod worked up and dead. And so the Roundup, if you're okay using that's going to be a much more effective way to do it, at least a much cheaper way to do it. Let me go to Bill first because he had a comment, and then go to you guys.
Bobby, are you feeding
Any Remington or ionophores?
What'd you say?
Any ionophores to your steers, like Remington or anything?
Anyway, on which cedar?
Oh no, are you feeding to your steers like the Remington?
No, Bramamycin in the mineral, and that's it. I won't feed Remington if you give it to me.
Why not?
Why not? It's hard on their stomachs.
Okay.
Remington is made for a high energy ration. Bramamycin takes care of fiber, and that's when they're a pasture, they're on fiber. I've several years ago when Bramamycin first came out, I asked the people that made it, was it safe for horses? And the man that I talked to said, I'm feeding it to my horse every day. Our family's also got a feed mill, and we make it we're all horse feed now. Then we were not. So we made a mineral with Bramamycin as to what the manufacturers recommended. It was regulated, and we never had any bloat when I was feeding it on red clover or alfalfa. And so after that, I got checking. With Rumensin, it takes about a week to 10 days for that stomach to get converted over to be able to utilize it. If you miss 3 days of mineral, you've lost that stomach has gone back to where it was. Bramamycin does not do all of that. It only works on the fiber that's in the stomach. And you don't have an adjustment period. And if you happen to be out a mineral for 2 or 3 days, there's no readjusting to start over again with. So that's the advantage I like about Bramamycin. Main thing is the bloat control. And that said, they did not claim it because when they were getting it approved, it was not they didn't think of it as a necessity, but they found out later that it worked as a control.
Very good point, and Chris made comment on it.
Why don't you bring it out now and show them?
Okay, there's we did a little demonstration when planting on several different depths, and you can obviously see there's alfalfa. It would be the same thing really any forage we planted. Okay, can you all see these numbers? This is 0, quarter, half, 1, 2, 3 inches deep. Here's your test. What do you think is a good seeding depth? Quarter. There's actually 2 rows here. The half is about the same. So when we say quarter to half inch is a recommended depth, this is the difference. Getting down to 1 inch, 2 plants came up in the row. Sometimes you may get away with it if it's really moist ground and whatever, but why not just set the drill right? But no-till drills, the only, in my mind, real disadvantage is they're made to cut through sod. They easily plant too deep because they've got a lot of weight on them, so they'll cut through sod. Works fine if you're seeding the grain. You're fine to put wheat down 1.5 inches deep.
You know, a good way to remember that? Never more than 4 times the diameter of the seed.
Okay, okay.
And that's
About
deep
that
enough.
With little bitty forage seed, Bob's comment was no more than 4 times the diameter of the seed. Question? Was there one over here?
Yeah, when you spray your fescue with the chaparral, you're keeping the seed heads from growing. You're getting a lot more vegetative growth on that fescue. Is that part of it?
Yeah, get a lot more growth because I'm getting rid of the weeds at the same time.
Okay, I've never heard about
And-
that.
and-
Well, and since the
Yeah, I
seed
mean,
heads aren't coming, the plant's putting its energy into the leafy growth.
You're gonna get more vegetation.
You gotta get-
to graze
On
on.
this, with the way I've been figuring it, I've got to get rid of the weeds, have the fertilizer right, then the grass will grow. Your fertilization's up, you get rid of your weeds, it's got room to grow.
You're adding your urea with it and doing it in one pass.
You do what?
If you add fertilizer in with your spray, you're doing all that in one pass.
No. Because you be liquid nitrogen and you don't want to use, I guess you could, I never have used the liquid, I've used just dry urea. Come back with that, or do that whenever I get to it. But the spray time is pretty critical.
Now, the chaparral will kill it.
It's very critical.
And it's going to be 6 months before you can reseed it. So make sure you think about the side impacts. You've got weeds, you suppress the seed heads, but you've got a delay period before the clover because it's a very effective herbicide on broadleaves, which clover is. A couple more questions before we move ahead.
This might be too personal, but how do you charge for raising another man's cattle, for grazing another man's cattle?
What
So
is
how do you charge to graze another man's cattle? Are you doing custom
for a
grazing?
pound of gain?
Okay.
For a pound of gain, in weight and out weight, I give him 2% shrink because that's what it would cost me to take them to yards, or 2%. We weigh scales there on the farm, and he sends his truck in. We'll put 50 to 52,000 on it, depending on what the driver wants. Turn out what's left.
Do you mind Bob saying what you're getting per pound of gain?
Depending on, it's about 35 to 40% of the live price, live market, fat cattle market.
So you base it on that. Let it
It's
fluctuate
based on
that
fat
line.
cattle market.
So 30 to 40, say 30 to 40%.
About 40% of live fat cattle market. We try to put anywhere from a minimum of 200 to 250 pounds. A couple of weeks ago, we shipped out a load and sorted out everything, and everything was left. We had 280 head there, and I had about 230 left. We weighed everything and resorted to group them so we won't have to do it again for a while. It was a halfway decent day to do it. And so far, everything on the farm, it's present and shipped down, has gained about 2.68 per day.
That's
That's-
what
that's-
the legume in there will do.
That's on everything. It was there. All cattle was at 408 head was figured into that. And that was the one time I figured everything. Now I won't know till the end of the year till we get done shipping what's left, because I'm not going to sort them anymore. But I always weigh it when they go out. And we'll probably take in another 65, maybe 70 head to replace the ones that went out. Try to get 65, about 60% of what I'm going to use in the spring. And we'll have about 45% of what we're going to use in the fall. Have kind of 2 bunches, but we start shipping in middle of June, and as they get ready to, and he got room in the feedlot, we let him have them. And some of the cattle we get in will weigh 750 if the price is right. Last year we got some cattle that weighed 750. It would only cost about $34 more than the 650s per head. So I can't put on weight for $34. Nobody else can put that on.
We're going to need to move on, but great presentation. You listened to Bob all day.
Thank you.